You heard a lot of talks this weekend, and in most of the presentations we heard about the importance of rotation, about power. So I want to look at the whole case from a strength and conditioning standpoint a little bit more. And who of you works with young players? Okay. How many of you ever had problems with back pain in young players? Okay. For me, when we get players into our academy, the first thing we usually do is we assess them. And I'd say pretty much 90% of the players we assess, the weak link we find is the core. Baseball is a super one-dimensional sport. If we throw, if we hit, it's all rotating in one direction. So what we have to prepare the players is to have a strong core, because only if the core is strong enough, I can develop power too. So if you have young players, my number one perspective would be I have to get them strong first. What is the job of the core? Well, let's talk about the core first. For me, the core is everything between the pelvis and the ribs. So everybody talks about, okay, if I want to create power, if I want to be strong, if I want to hit the ball hard, if I want to throw hard, everything is, the force is generated from my lower body, from my legs. But somehow I need to get that energy, that force from the legs into my hand or into the bat. To do that, all that force has to pass through my core. So the core is the connection of my lower and my upper body. If I'm not strong here, if I'm not stable here, I'm not going to be able to transfer the power from my legs into my upper body. You see, on young players, a lot of you, if you teach the mechanics, no matter if it's a hitter or a pitcher, if you see this or the hitter flying open, and we tell them, hey, you have to stay over the ball, you have to be close, you have to be stable here. A lot of the players can't do that. You can tell them 100 times, but if the core is not strong enough, you can tell them as much as you can because they are not able to control it. So it's not only a technical flaw, sometimes, especially in young players, it's just a strength issue. So if you want to avoid that unwanted or unneeded movement, I need to be stable here. Because if I want to transfer the power from my lower body up, it has to pass through here. So if I do this, I have an energy leak. So the energy is not gonna transfer into my hand or into the bat because it's gonna be lost on the way up. So that's why it's important if I want to create power, I have to be stable. Last but not least, I want to protect the spine. The only way to protect the spine is the core musculature, so if that's not stable, my spine has to compensate for it, and it's going to result in back pain, and that's a problem especially in the young guys, say age 16 to 18. That's like one of the age groups where back pain occurs most. Okay, what is important so the core can actually do the job? We said we want to transfer the power, we want to be stable here. Still, I want to have movement because I'm rotating. To do that, I need to have good pelvic control. Pelvic control is a motor pattern. So, I mean, you're all sitting there all day long, so please everybody stand up right now. We're going to try something. Hey, it's a strength and conditioning talk, so you all guys got to move a little bit. Okay, since you're baseball people, you actually should be pretty good at that. The first thing we do, we just want to tilt our pelvis. That's all we do. Go from anterior to a posterior tilt. Is everybody able to do that? Okay, you can do that with the players too. You can start at warm-up and just do that. And a lot of times you're going to see shake. If you can do that, it's really easy. But you're going to see a lot of this in some of the players, because they're just not able to control it. So there's no reason to get them more powerful if they have not the right movement pattern yet. The same on rotation. It's a little more tough. I'm not that good at doing it, but I want to be able to rotate my pelvis without compensating. So it's not the shoulders turning, it's not pushing the knees out in front, it's just the rotation here. And it's not a hip shake, we're not dancing, it's just turning. Everybody able to do that? Okay, now we get the first issues here that we're kind of locked up there, right? Okay, if you're not able to do that, you're probably gonna compensate from your lumbar spine. So if you rotate and your hip is not able to rotate properly, the movement comes from somewhere else, which goes up the chain, and usually it's the lumbar spine. It's gonna result in back pain over the long run. To do that, I need to have good mobility too. And usually we look at the joints above and below the area that we actually train or that we want to protect. So if we look at the joint by joint model, it's always back and forth from mobile to stable. And we just said, okay, I want to have a stable lumbar spine, so my pelvis or my ribs, they always have the same margin. Okay, if I put my hand on my ribs and one on my pelvis, that should not move. So every time this happens, or if I put it on the side, this happens, I have an energy leak again. So I'm going to lose power, I'm going to lose force. In order to be stable here, the movement has to come from somewhere else, and that's up here in the T-spine and from the hips. That's something we're going to test with the players too. We're going to try that in a moment too. So I got mobility and I got strength to be able to control the movement. The last thing for power is the motor control. My motor units have to be able to fire in the right way at the right time to produce as much power as we can. So those are the important issues if you want to have your core work in the proper way. Okay, let's see how we test the mobility for the T-spine and the hips. For that, I'm going to have you stand up in the moment again. We're just going to look at the videos here. First off, we start with the athlete having his feet together, hands in front of the chest, crossed on the shoulders, and we're just going to rotate to the back. So the coach, or in that case, the trainer, is standing right behind the athlete, and we're just going to look what's going to happen with him. Okay, we can see he's rotating. That's pretty much all he got. So that doesn't say us a lot yet, but if we look at the next video, that's actually how it should look like. I'm able to see his opposite shoulder from right behind him, and that's actually what we want to achieve. If I know, okay, that's working, I know, okay, he's got enough mobility so I can work for power. Okay, on the left side, I know he has a problem. There's something not working right. I still don't know if it's from the hips or if it's from the T-spine. So I'm going to go into the next test. For me, that's the lumbar lock test. The athlete is on all fours. We're going to shift the pelvis back just to lock out the lumbar spine, because we just want to have the movement from the T-spine, and put one arm on the back and rotate up. Again, we see, okay, it's maybe 45 degrees, and we want to have at least 50. More is better in that case. On the right side, that's almost 90 degrees, so his T-spine mobility is pretty good. On him, I know, okay, we have to hammer T-spine mobility before I can do anything else, otherwise he's going to end up in back pain. Okay, we're going to try that too. So you can stand up again, and you're always going to check the guy in front of you. You can switch back and forth too. We start putting the feet together, arms in front of our chest, and the guy on your backside is going to check you. So you rotate as much as you can, and the guy behind you is going to see how far you can turn. Remember, you want to see the opposite shoulder. Yeah, we rotate. We always check out both sides because we want to check for asymmetry. Okay, what we also have to look for is compensation patterns. Compensation pattern, for instance, would be if I start doing this to turn, or if I lean back to do that. We still want to stay straight. Okay, did we discover any issues here? Okay, who was not able to turn as much as you should be? Okay, you want to come up here, please? Okay, we're going to go into the next test, so we're going to check the T-spine for you. Just come up here. Okay, so first off, we're going to shift back the pelvis so we can eliminate the movement from the lumbar spine. Just go down on your forearms. Okay, we're going to put one arm on his back, and now try to rotate up as much as you can. Okay, we clearly have an issue on this side. You can see that pretty clearly. Okay.
I think it's age.
Do it on the other side too. Okay, that side even worse. Okay, he's completely locked up. Okay, we're going to do something about it right now. Okay, okay. Just please sit down. Okay, that's something you can try afterwards too. Okay, we're going to start with our hands on our chest again. Yeah, sit up straight. And now try to rotate to the right as much as you can. Okay, that's all you got? Yes. Okay, stay there, stay there. Okay, now we exhale, and while we exhale, we're going to bend over as much as we can. Come back up and rotate again. Okay, same again. Exhale, coming up again and rotate. Okay, you see the increase already? Okay, every time you do that. We tried it now, everybody so just sit up in your chair, move a little up, rotate, and see how far you can reach. If you okay, I reached my end point, exhale, bend over a little bit, stay there and try to rotate a little bit farther. And you should feel that every time you do that, you can reach a little bit more to the side. So we rotate, and then it's a lateral flexion, so we're bending to the side while we exhale. And I mean, it's a short-term effect right now. I mean, everybody should feel that when they do that, they can rotate more than before. If we do that consistently every day as part of the warm-up or somewhere in our exercise program, we can change something here and get better at our T-spine mobility. It's going to go really quick. If we do that every day, you're going to free up the T-spine, and that issue should be gone. Okay. If that's not the problem, so we checked, okay, he can turn as much as he should, but T-spine looks good. We're going to check the hip mobility. That's a standard mobility test. You're going to sit the athlete on a chair or on a bench, put something under his thigh, and you're just going to rotate to the internal and external rotation. I mean, for the video, the athlete is doing it himself. Usually I do it for him to check him. We always have to look for compensation from the hips. If I start to rotate, there's always a chance that my hips start to move up just to gain more movement. So that's something you have to look for while you do it. We have 30 degrees internal rotation, 40 degrees external rotation as a minimum that we want. So if the player lacks that, then he can't rotate his pelvis as much as he should be. And again, the movement is coming from different areas, which usually is the lower spine, which results in the same problems again. To attack that, it's a little bit more complex, but if you put on Google or YouTube hip mobility, you're going to find a couple of exercises that you can try with your athletes too. Okay. So now that we cleared up all that, we got the right mobility.
So you don't start any type of rotational or core work before This is straight line, or
I do.
you do.
Yeah.
But like lower intensity, or
Well, first off, we start with strengthening the core anyways. So if I see, okay, he's got a problem, he doesn't have the right flexibility, I still can strengthen the core. I can still work out with the guy. The only thing, I mean, you're not going to take him out and say, okay, you're not going to hit for 2 months because you're not fixed up there. But it's something that I give him in his daily routine just to fix the issue. He's not going to break in 1 week because he doesn't have the mobility. Probably he's done it for years already. So for me, I just work it into the process. We got the good mobility now. Now we try to get the core strong. We just said the job of the core is to transfer energy and to avoid unneeded movement. So that's the same way that we actually train the core too. We don't train the core by doing crunches or moving. We train the core in the way he actually should work in athletic movement, and that is to avoid motion. First off, we have anti-rotation, so the core resists the rotation. And the same goes for all vectors here. We have anti-extension and anti-lateral flexion. So the core is not here to produce movement. It's there to avoid movement, so I can get force through my body, to avoid energy leaks. So I'm training it in the same way. I'm training it to resist movement. The stronger the core is, the better I can decelerate movement, which means the harder I can accelerate. And we heard in a different presentation yesterday, I think it was, the body is not going to hurt itself. So if the body is not strong enough, he's not going to accelerate as much that something's going to break. So in order for us, if we want to accelerate more, if we want to be more powerful, we've got to bring the body in a position that it actually can decelerate properly. The harder I can decelerate, the more power output the body is going to allow me. Okay, I have a lot of exercises for you just as examples for that. We start with the anti-rotation. Those are just examples, okay? We start with the Pallof press. The Pallof press is an exercise that looks pretty easy, but the players hate it because it's really hard. You stand 90 degrees to a cable. You can use a super band like the thick rubber bands too if you don't have access to a gym or a cable pull. And all you do is you push the weight forward. So the cable is coming from the side and trying to pull me over, and my core has to resist the rotation. We try to breathe naturally while we do all those core drills, because we actually need to be able to establish tension or stability in the core while breathing. If you're doing this, you can't do it during the game. The same with a little bit more movement, the rotation. The weight travels around my body. The core is not moving. It's avoiding the motion. So there's no rotation from the hips or from my shoulders. It's just the arms work around me. So the weight is always in a different position, and the core always have to adjust. You can do the same from the top, as in the cable chops, or from the bottom in the cable lifts. To add some variety to it, you have different stances. You can do all those movements. You can do them standing. You can do them kneeling. You can be in a half kneeling position, like here, where we're on one knee. You can do them in the split stance, where the back knee is up. That one probably is the hardest, because your base of support is the smallest. So in all exercises that you do here, the players usually like to load them up heavy, because they want to feel it in their arms, and I'm working hard, and then it looks like this, they're leaning into it. Make sure they're straight up. It's in core exercise, not an arm exercise. So they actually should always feel, okay, my arms are not working that hard, but my core has to resist. Last one is the lat mine. You can just use a barbell, put it in the hinge back there, and same as here. We move the weight around our body and the core has to work against the motion. We do the same for the anti-extension. Anti-extension is this here. I don't want to lose my power here. So we have the standard planks. On the planks we always try to pull the floor together between us to build maximum tension. If you do planks, a lot of the players probably going to be able to hold them for a minute or two, but they're not doing it properly if they can do that. For us, the plank should last 10 to maybe 20 seconds, and we try to get as much tension into it as possible. If I'm in that position and I try to pull the carpet together between me, like I pull my elbows down and my toes up, I should create so much tension that it's impossible to hold it longer than maybe 20 seconds. If they're not shaken after 10 seconds, they're not doing it right. To increase it a little bit, we can do the same on the bench. Again, it's just my shoulder, my collarbone, and my toes that are up on the bench, just to make it a little harder again. We add some movement in it with the dead bug. Still, the core, the only job is that my ribs and my pelvis are on the same plane, that they are not traveling apart. So we have the easy version where the hands and arms are always changing. That's a little harder version where the legs and the arms work at the same time. Again, we want to breathe. You're going to see the players that trying to really push and squeeze in. Make sure they can always hold the position while breathing. If you can't breathe in a position, you don't own the position. We have the rollout. Again, by pushing forward, we have a bigger lever on the core. We have the anti-extension press. That's not a triceps push, okay? It's not here tricep extension. I'm just pushing up, so I have to resist the backward motion. And the last one is the anti-lateral flexion. We have the standard side plank again. Same as on the regular plank. I again want to pull together, I want to create as much tension as possible, and if I can hold it for longer than 20 seconds, I'm not doing it right. I can add some variety to that too. I can be in the side plank and have him roll. I can have him pull from the top, just to make the body adjust more, because the weight is always in a different position. We have side holds, where we just again have to resist the movement. And my favorite exercises that I integrate in pretty much every workout I do with the players are different carrying variations. This is a one-arm carry. The weight is only on one side, so the body has to resist bending over or compensating to the other side. If you do that, you should feel it actually pretty good in the side of your core. You can load them up pretty heavy, but make sure the guys still stay straight. If they start carrying something really heavy like this, you lose pretty much all the benefits.
For example, for under 18 or 15, how do they?
Well, it depends on how well trained the players, of course. The players at our academy usually use like between 50 and 60 kilos.
This one arm carry?
Yeah. So they're not using a kettlebell anymore. We have those farmer walk bars where you can just load plates. It goes up pretty quick. I mean, you can correlate it with the deadlift. If you have somebody that's a pretty good deadlifter, he usually can carry a lot of weight too. So I would always start with a kettlebell, and you start with maybe 20 kilos and you're going to work your way up from there. It's also good for grip strength, so that's going to be an issue for a lot of the players if you try to give them 50 kilos. That's not only hard work for the core, but they also have to grip it tightly and not lose it, so you also have a good forearm workout in that too. Different variation is the elevated one-arm carry, where you have the kettlebell over your head can also put in the rack position. The higher I have the weight, the harder it gets again. Because the further I move my weight up from the ground, the harder it is to control. And every time I put my arms over my head, I'm going to activate the core even more. So on those, we obviously don't go too heavy. Last one is a kettlebell windmill, where I actually make a screwing motion right underneath the kettlebell, which is not only for the core, but also good for shoulder stability. On those, you can add weight pretty quick too. But again, it's always depending on the athlete. On all those motions, don't start too heavy, because we're trying to make him strong and keep him healthy. If we put too much weight on that, they're going to compensate, they're going to put it on their lumbar spine, and we don't want to create back pain because of the exercises we do. Okay, yeah.
Obviously, it's core exercises, but you're going to get some residual from the shoulder stabilization there on those.
On the windmill?
On all.
Yeah,
all
pretty
the
much
stuff.
on all everything
Anything
you have
above the head
overhead.
was
Yeah, it's
stabilizing
always
the
a good shoulder stabilization exercise too. Yeah. Especially if you look at the windmill, you have a straight line through the arms. So if you want to have a lot of weight on that, you're going to teach your shoulder to be so the shoulder, your upper arm is centered in your shoulder. Because if I have it somewhere on the side, I'm not going to be able to hold it. So it teaches me to really put my arm in the right direction and always be in a good centered motion, in a good centered position for my shoulder. Okay, those are the examples I have for you. There are a million more exercises you can do. So if you understand the basic concept that I want to resist movement, I can be creative. I can add different movements, I can add different exercises, as long as I know I have to be in a good position and I have to hold that position. That should be the main purpose of the exercise. The core has to hold that position. Then you can be creative and put in all different kinds of weights, of vectors and all that thing. So now that we have the core strong, we're looking at how we can get it more powerful. The tool I like the most for power is the mat ball. Because the mat ball is something where the injury risk is really low. I don't have a barbell that I have to decelerate again. I can just really let go of it and all the force is gone. And I can put a lot of force in it because I don't have to decelerate it. If I push a barbell or something, I always have to control it afterwards too. The ball, as soon as I release it, it's just gone. So working for power, we usually start with the players at about age 15. You always have to look a little bit at the biological age, not only the chronological age, but that's pretty much where it starts, that you can actually really develop power. Before is more the strength gains or the speed gains, and really working for power, age 15 plus minus. So we have different variations here again. We throw the mat ball from the side, as you see on both. If I start with the half kneeling, I pretty much take out the hip. So it's really just the core working. If I do it in the standing way, I still want to take out the hip on those. Because it's not this. I want to work this here. I still want to resist the movement. And if you want to make it a little heavier, I'm using the soft balls here that don't bounce as much. If you use a rubber ball that comes back more from the wall, you also have to decelerate it, and the body or the core is not only working and accelerating, but I have to decelerate it and keep my stable position again too. You can do the same in the front stance. This time it's a split stance again. So as in the exercises before, I can create variety with those exercises by different stances too. I have, again, the half kneeling, I can do it standing, I can do it in the split squat, I can do it from the side, I can do it forward. So I have a lot of variety in those exercises again too. It's actually one of my favorite exercises for baseball players. It's a step back and push, Again, I load my back leg, and I'm just going to rotate my hips and push the balls forward. There's no rotational component from the arms, it's just getting the hips and pushing the arms to create as much force on the ball as possible. The verbal cues I give the players for the netball exercise usually are try to throw the ball through the wall or try to make the ball explode. So I really get the most out of them. On the ball, they really can let go. If I want to train for power, I have to accelerate the ball as much as I can. If I don't go all out, I'm not going to have the purpose, or I'm not going to have the result that I'm going to get more powerful. So we can do the exercises on the cable again too. Pretty much all the exercises we do for strength, we can do for power too. Right here we have a cable pull push. The push actually doesn't come from the arms. We take the momentum. All the momentum comes from the hips. We rotate as powerful as possible and take all the momentum with us to get into extension. We have the cable pulls, the cable chops again, as we before did, but now we try to do it as powerful as possible. We have the one-arm rotation row. We try to get the hips through as quick as possible and really explode. Again, on those, the players like to load them up. Make sure they stay in a weight range that they can work quick. If they go too heavy, it's not going to be powerful again. Same with the mat balls. The standard weight for a mat ball we use with a quite strong player is 3 kilos. Because I want to move the ball quick. If the player says, I can use a way harder ball, can 7 kilos, 10 kilos, whatever, it's not going to be powerful again. It's not a strength exercise, it's a power exercise. So if the player says, okay, the weight is getting too light, then he has to throw it quicker. So the intensity doesn't come from the weight, but from the speed. Doesn't matter if it's 3 kilos or if the player is strong or not. You can always accelerate the 3 kilos as quick as you can, as fast as you can. The same with the weight on the cable. The weight shouldn't jump on the cable, but try not to make it too heavy. A good guideline is if you can do the movement without weight, it shouldn't be, if you look at it, it pretty much should look the same if you add the weight. So if you see, okay, it's getting obviously slower or he's compensating, the weight is too much. Okay, a couple general thoughts in concern of power, not only for rotational power, but for power at all. Lift heavy. I mean, the exercises you saw there, those were the power exercises, but lift heavy on the main lifts. That means a lot of weight, a lot of intensity, which means we're going to probably decrease the reps, especially going towards the season. I mean, we talked about tapering too. The same as with the progression. We start up and we lower the weight or increase the intensity going up towards the season. And the best way to be powerful is to be strong. So if I'm not strong, the body is not going to be able to create much power. So lift heavy, lift fast. Even if I lift heavy, I still try to lift the weight as fast or as quick as I can. If I have a deadlift with, I don't know, 200 kilos there, I still try to get it off as quick as I can. I'm not trying to move slow. Of course it's going to look slow, but I'm trying to fire as fast as I can. Because I want to get my body, I want to teach him to move quick. And we always train both sides. If you do that with your players, you're going to see, okay, it looks weird. Especially on the exercises that are a little bit more complex, you're going to see, okay, their dominant side looks really good, they know how to rotate, and all of a sudden you do it on the opposite side, and they have no idea how to rotate properly, and they can't control it, and they don't want to do it because it feels bad. They feel really stupid because they can't usually do it. So
Do you
Yeah.
get used to that other side? Or
Yes,
is that
yes, you do. Well, if you introduce a new exercise, it's always going to be weird first, and probably the stronger side is always going to look better because you just do it so much more. I mean, it's pretty much the same if you're always hitting from the right side and all of a sudden you have to hit from the left. It feels really weird and it's probably going to look stupid too. So the same is with the mat ball exercises. It's a little easier than the baseball swing, but it's the same concept. The body's just not used to it, and the motor pattern's just not ingrained into the body yet. So always train both sides, because first of all, we're gonna want to get rid of the single-sided thing that we have in baseball anyways, and we want to train the other side too to keep those disbalances in check. And second of all, we can teach them something to be more athletic. If you train for power, I mean, on all those exercises, we're not trying to really replicate an exact baseball swing or an exact baseball throw. So I'm not going to the cable and trying to throw the ball or trying to have the handle and doing the throwing motion or doing a hitting motion. Power is specific. That means I have to do something that's pretty similar, but I'm not going to be able to replicate the exact baseball movement. So even if I take a bat and attach it to a cable, the movement's going to be different. Other muscles going to take over because they're stronger, so don't try to do that. We need to be in a pretty much basic movement pattern. So if we're talking about rotation, I have to incorporate this, and I have to strengthen the resistance. So every time we do something with a mat ball, like on the step back and push, or if we do heaves, this has to work. And again, the hip and the core work together. So there's no turning the hip and the rest is gonna come. It's this. This is one part. Okay? If we do it differently, we're gonna create movement in the lumbar spine where we don't want it, and we're gonna lose energy. Because on this, that's an energy leak where energy is gonna just leave the body to the side. There's a little movement. It's always gonna be a little bit here because the body the body knows where it's in the strongest position to hold it, and it's probably not gonna be straight. It's a little bit stretched. But that's something we cannot control. It's something the body figures out by itself. As in the other talks with the throwing, you're not going to have to teach the degrees or whatever. The body knows best where it's the strongest, where it's the stablest. And we have to be able to put him in a position to be strong in that position and to direct the force through them. Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
As far as the speed of the lift, obviously as explosive and quick as possible on the positive side. What about on the negative side? Are we trying to control the weight on the negative side of the lift, or are there phases, or is there a time where we're moving as quickly as possible?
Yeah, there are phases for sure. For me, if we want to strengthen the core, we're going to decelerate slowly. Or trying to resist movement at all. In the power phase, the deceleration, I want to have it quick too. Like on the mat ball throws, as I said before, if I use the rubber mat ball, it's going to bounce back hard from the wall if I slam it into it. So I have to decelerate it. And there's not much time to decelerate slow. It's going to be back quick, so I have to decelerate it like this. And it shouldn't look like I'm going all the way there. I catch it and I try to stop the movement, and I'm trying to resist the rotation again. So absolutely, I need to do that quick because, I mean, in sports and baseball, the body doesn't have the time to have 2 seconds to decelerate. The thing is going to be here. If I hit the ball or if I catch the ball, it's always an instant like this. So the body has to adjust as quick or to reestablish as quick as possible to be stable again.
What about on the traditional Olympic technique lifts? A split squat, a standing squat, a Russian squat, any of those squats? Obviously, there's got to be a little slower on the negative.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, that's again, we work in strengths in that phase, and that means I always want to control it. I want to be the concentric phase is as quick as possible, but controlled. So if I do this, I don't like that, but that can be quick. I want to teach the body to fire quickly. But the decelerating movement on that is always controlled because I have a lot of weight. I don't want to hurt anything on that. So the quickness on the deceleration is always for power movement where not that much weight is involved. Okay.
Any other questions? Right here.
Yeah.
For the core power, you mentioned starting the age of 15. For the core strength, you can start earlier.
Yeah, core strengths you can start pretty much from the lowest age on. I would probably integrate it a little bit differently because they're not going to the gym and doing like 10 different exercises, but you can integrate it absolutely in doing different stuff. What I love is crawling motions, rolling patterns. That's something I would always do with the young players. Put them on the floor, make them get up properly, make them rolling on the floor, make them crawling. That's pretty much how a baby strengthens its core before it stands up. And if you look at the young players, a lot of them lost that ability. They're not going to be able to roll over properly on the ground and stuff like that. And it's pretty much because of lacking core strength or because of lacking motor control because they don't know how to use the muscles in the right way. So that's pretty much how I would work the core for younger players.
Questions? Great job.